How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another PT Pearl from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Dr. Dom.
I'm DocJen.
And today we're going to be diving into those tight upper traps. First, what the heck the upper traps are and why they might be tight and why they might give us so much pains in the neck and back, literally. So stay tuned. And I think this is something that's just kind of universal for people. It's like one of the spots that like, oh yeah, I've got pain. Where do you have pain? Neck, upper neck, upper back, shoulders. Like everyone kind of hits these points at some point throughout their life, whether you work at a desk or have kids or work in general or have stress, you know,
live.
Right? Or live or breathe. You know, at some point we might have tension, even up to like debilitating pain in our upper neck and upper back. And a lot of people say, oh, you've just got all these knots or trigger points in your upper traps or so much tension in your upper traps. So we're going to talk a little bit into like how we might be able to approach that a little bit differently, which is kind of what we always do for you guys. But how can we approach this trap? And first, what the heck is the trap?
So the upper trap region, if we think about it, first of all, our trap comes from trapezius. So it's a big trapezius muscle that we have, and it's actually quite large. So it goes all the way from our neck and attaches up there in the spine, and then a little lower in the spine, not quite the low back, but think the mid-back thoracic spine. Okay, and it spans this whole area from the neck all the way down that thoracic spine, and it really works to control the shoulder blade or the scapula. Yeah. And so there's 3 different portions, and those are the three different muscles that make up the trapezius, and luckily they named them so generously for us. So we have the upper trap, which is just the upper portion from that upper shoulder blade into the neck, which is obviously the place that we're going to be focusing on. The mid trap, which is just that middle shoulder blade area connecting into the spine, and then the low trap. So think the lower portion of that shoulder blade connecting into the upper back as well.
And knowing that this is something that's primarily attached into our shoulder blade means that a lot of shoulder movements, or almost all shoulder movements, will involve it in some way, because we can't really isolate moving our arm from our shoulder blade in a lot of scenarios. So we're going to talk a little bit into what those specific portions of the trap do. But just keeping in mind that any arm motion involves the shoulder blade. Any thoracic spine motion or rotation, extension, flexion through our upper back might then involve the positioning and how that trap and shoulder blade are interacting too. So that's important. It's a critical pivot point in our body and our movement is this shoulder blade.
When we really think into upper trap pain and some of the triggers that happen, you know, if we think about, first of all, what does the upper trap even do? Why do I need this stinky upper trap that continues to give me pain and knots and problems? And really, it's so important. Again, it connects into the neck, so it's going to pull our neck into extension, which is needed, right? Yes, we want to sit up nice and tall and beautiful and have this good posture, but we also want to be able to have healthy range of motion in the neck, and the upper trap is really going to help with that, as well as it helps to elevate that shoulder blade. So think of shrugging your shoulders, and it's also, exactly like Dom said, going to help with shoulder range of motion, especially overhead. So think reaching your arm up and getting that upper arm bone by your ear, that is shoulder flexion, and your upper trap works with your lower trap and this muscle called serratus anterior, which we can go into later on. But those 3 muscles actually work together to cause this shoulder blade to upwardly rotate so that you get overhead flexion. And it's so incredibly crucial. So we don't want to think, how can I turn off my upper trap? We want to think, how can I better use my upper trap so it's working for me?
A fun way to kind of like experiment with that is if you just like put your arm kind of under your armpit or cup your armpit so your fingers go into your back, and then you start to just raise your arm up. And when you get past your shoulder, you kind of start to feel that shoulder blade, the bottom of it at least, start poking into your hand. And that just shows you, like Jen was saying, you start moving the socket that's on the shoulder blade, then we can get the arm there or arm further. So those movements couple together, and upper trap is important for that. Knowing what the upper trap does, and then as humans knowing our tendencies when we are going about through our days and where we might find protection, or where our body might go when we feel like we need safety. And our upper trap is so big and so powerful that it can provide us a lot of stability. right? If you encounter something stressful throughout your day, right? Whether somebody walks around the corner and you're just about to run into them, or you open up an email and crap has hit the fan once again and business is gonna, be crazy the rest of the day because of it. The first thing that we tend to do is take a quick inhale. Oh, woe is me, what's going on in my life? And our shoulders just shoot straight up into our ears. And in that moment, activating those upper traps, saying, protect, protect. We need to be in this fight or flight mode now.
The muscles around our neck, so including our upper trap, are going to kind of help. They're accessory muscles when we need to breathe. Mm-hmm. And only when we need to breathe in more sympathetic driven situations, or working out, or doing something that requires our chest and our sternum to expand a lot more, then these muscles around the neck will turn on. Now, if I'm in more of that sympathetic go, stressful kind of state, then my upper traps and muscles around the neck are automatically gonna go without you even trying. We hold on to these tensions without even thinking about it. And so awareness is the first step, and then going into, okay, how can I shift that? And we've talked about that a lot as well.
What I want you to do, and if you're listening, you can try this, is try shrugging your ears up towards your shoulders and really find all that tension up there. Take one big inhale, and then on the exhale, just go, and let those melt away. And that's a good way to feel just that difference between fully tense in the upper traps and what it feels like to let some of that go. And that's a good way to check throughout the day, like, okay, how much am I holding my shoulders up here, or can I give them a little bit of a break? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just that one little reminder throughout the day can be something to say, okay, I do tend to build up a lot of tension in those upper traps throughout the day. And that kind of is a great lead in to what one of our main recommendations is, as you mentioned, breathing, and really heavy sympathetic chest breathing can be something that builds tension in those upper traps and all of our other neck muscles. So if we return to breathing, we can really start to influence them a little differently.
Look at yourself in the mirror is also a good test. Take some slow diaphragmatic breaths. And if you see your neck tensing up, you're not actually able to turn off that signal up into those upper traps and neck area. So that's a good place to say, oh my gosh, I do need to start going back to the foundation of that breath stuff, so that it's not always on. The whole point is that we don't want to have our muscles turned on all the time. And that's like the same as someone coming in with, trying to do good posture and they're pulling their shoulder blades back. And I'm like, you don't want to have your shoulder blades and those mid traps on all the time. And so if that's what you're feeling and noticing in your body, it's like, that's where you get to use the tools that we give.
We have tight upper traps, and then we just use our lats and our lower traps to try and yank the shoulder blades down. Then it becomes a tug of war match. Mm-hmm. And if you don't reduce the tension in the upper traps, but just start yanking on it, they're going to pull back harder. So we do need to reduce that systemic tension overall.
So our last suggestion is that don't be afraid to use the upper trap in a healthy way. And that's why we do the activations in the optimal body, because we teach you how to use that shoulder blade. We teach you how to maximize using the serratus with the upper trap, with the lower trap, and how they all work together so that you're not just overpowering in that upper trap region. And, we guide you in your body. And that's what's so important. Don't be afraid to strengthen those exercises that, you use to do shrugs and do other things to get those upright rows, to really build strong upper traps. Not bad. They're not bad. And don't be afraid of them.
Totally. And when you're consciously training the muscle, it's a lot differently than subconsciously holding the tension all day.
Yes.
That's the main difference there. You don't need to shy away from shrugs. You need to teach your shoulders when it's right to shrug and use that tension. Exactly. So the same with while you're working. I mean, I've probably mentioned this before. It's the 30 for 30 rule. No matter how hard you're working and how stressful that day is, give yourself 30 seconds every 30 minutes or a minute every hour to get up, move those shoulders in all directions, open them up, push them forward. Get your body feeling itself, and then return to work. And just doing that, if it was 5 minutes throughout the day that you took 5 separate times to do something like that, you will start to notice a difference because you'll actually be noticing yourself.
Thanks so much for joining us on another PT Pearl and tuning in. I hope already you're feeling like more relaxed, more in tune. Maybe you tried some of the techniques that we said. If you have any more questions, specific body parts, things that you're noticing pop up, please comment below. We want to hear from you. Subscribe to the podcast because we go into way more detail on the actual podcast than we do in these PT Pearls that we show on YouTube. And we just want to give you the opportunity to continue to learn, dive into your body. So subscribe. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.